because, hearing it from you, I mean, that's obviously a huge fundamental shift, but that's not going to happen overnight. I mean,
Right.
You talked about mindset, you talked about, going from just, coming out of survival, probably just making a little bit of profit now to where you are now. I mean, that's a huge change. So how did you start that process? How did you get their buy-in? Let's start.
Sure. Well, so we weren't making a little bit of profit. We were frankly losing our ass, but we were surviving. And that was my CFO was excellent at kind of making phone calls, letting people know. So communicating to the vendors that, when they were going to get paid, if they weren't going to get paid on time. So it's critically important as communication, obviously, as it is in any business. But I think the shift really that took place was the alignment of the team. As we sat around at this first summit and said, hey, we have all these big aspirations, how are we going to attain that? We've always wanted to do well. Why is this any different this time? And I think what it really came down to was, everybody truly buying in and being all aligned. And to do that meant that, from my perspective as the ownership, was that we needed to be not just talk about being all in, we needed to exhibit, I guess, action around being all in. And so for me, it was, my leadership team, various different ages of kids and different space or different places in their lives. And so we went around the circle kind of, and I just asked the question. So if we're going to be all in, and that means you're always available to work, like you don't have to run home to take care of the kids because, your wife has to go to work. What would that look like? How much would that cost? And so everybody kind of threw their numbers out there, and they were pretty varied, frankly, because of different places in life people were. And so I sat back, thought about it a little bit, and it was a big, because what I had in mind and the commitment I was going to make back to them in order to get their commitment was a huge burden financially to the business. But without throwing numbers out, I went probably, I guess it's about $20,000 more than the highest guy's number. And when I did that, I said, we're all going to make the same income, including myself. We're all in this together. And this is about, one for all and all for one. And so that was the first move I made. And then right behind that, when, we kind of talked about that a little bit, and I said, but better than that or bigger than that, because a salary is a salary. Great, got a good salary. But how did they really buy in? And the buy-in came from the next offer I made, which was, at this particular level of my executives were, I was going to have them participate as though their ownership in the profits of the company. Now, I'm not a big fan of giving out any stock, phantom stock, real stock, whatever you want to call it. That just creates problems when you go to do a transaction, from my perspective. Again, just my opinion. And so I didn't want to do that. I also didn't want to have them put their homes on the line in case something went south. I held the risk. I held the lion's share of the company regardless. So there's 4 other gentlemen and myself. So effectively, I was giving up basically 20% of the business. They all got 5% of profits. And it was amazing, as we talked about that, of course, they really appreciated that. Then it went to, with all these big numbers we were talking about doing, and, once we started really kind of working through, we realized that, gosh, we need more help. And so we think about that a little bit differently maybe than most people do, but good help is critically important to being successful. And we had a lot of other people at the next level down below us, like a controller, like an HR person, like I guess an area manager, several area managers out in the field running the field, their boss, and they all had various titles. And so we said, well, we need a commonality with them, and so that they can all be a team as well. And so we dubbed them all directors. So all their titles changed to director of whatever domain they happen to reside in. So director of HR, director of finance, director of different pieces, of director of the operations. And so when we brought them in, and they also got tied to the bottom line. And so basically another point each there. And so over the years, people have, I've shared this with, and this is obviously the most public place I've ever done it. But I've had a lot of people over the years say, man, are you crazy? You're giving up 30% right off the top. And all I can tell them is, let me share the numbers with you. And, you know, we went from a large company, you know, it was a, let's say mid $30 million operation, not producing much bottom line or very little thin margin on that. And this is after the downturn. This is just 5 years ago. So, you know, it was 2016 is when we changed it up. And we went from that to more than double top line and probably just under quadrupling the bottom line. And so when you think about that, it's like I can give up that 30% of nothing and have a, you know, what we're doing and producing today was a very valuable company. And again, along the way, part of that was building process and building systems. And so I guess it's kind of bifurcate is how do I get the leadership on board? We aligned our intentions and we did it in a very specific manner. And so, you know, when it used to be if something got broke, something walked out the back door, that was Mike's money. All of a sudden it became their money. And it was amazing, absolutely amazing how fast that mindset shifted the entire business. Wow. Because now all of a sudden they were tied to the bottom line.
And that happened at different levels within the company because you had their buy-in. Yep.
And that was what was critically important. We can want to do well all we want at the top, but without that next layer of people being bought in as well, you know, it's a struggle. It would have been a struggle. And so we launched in 2017 under our own, as I described it, you know, somebody in charge of each operation, sales and finance. And it was a disaster, frankly. We had a whole bunch of people targeting, trying to get better, trying to do better, trying to clean messes up. And as I watched month after month, we weren't making any money. In fact, we were going backwards, and pretty hard to have people that are tied to the bottom line see there is no bottom line to think it's worth anything but just a bunch of conversation.